Would it make you the jerk for refusing to give my mother money every month? We'll get into that in a bit, but first, am I the jerk because I left my cousin's house and then her boyfriend left her? I was visiting family for Thanksgiving. My cousin insisted that I stay at her house. The whole time I was there, she was having her teenage kids do multiple tasks for her. Not really a big deal, teaches them core value lessons. Well, after Thanksgiving, the teenagers were out with friends, etc., and the younger kids were back. She's screaming at her boyfriend, I think they've been together 6 years and have a 1-year-old together, to come get the baby, that she needs a break. Not a biggie. He hasn't sat down for a minute, and she starts screaming and cussing why he hasn't washed the dishes. He normal voice says, I'm taking care of the baby. More screaming and cussing. I tell him I'll entertain the child, and she gets mad about that. Think this happened the night before. I came back after visiting other family and he was on the couch with the baby and she was doing something in the kitchen. We were just talking about different states and etc. He's an over-the-road truck driver and was home after being out 6 weeks. She yells for him to come in the kitchen. I went to get a drink and he was sitting on a step stool while holding the baby. I jokingly asked was he grounded and my cousin said if I'm stuck in the kitchen, he can be in here too. He can at least show me some support. Around 9 p.m., her son texts and said that he was spending the night again because it was so late and his ride didn't feel like taking him home. He was with family of the boyfriend and they had worked on a college football game. She tells him to go get her son. He said, why can't he just stay another night? More cussing and screaming. He left to go get the child. She grabbed the baby and went to her bedroom. I gathered my stuff and left and went to my dad's house. I forgot that my watch was charging, so I had to go back to get it. Found out he took his son and left that morning, and she says it's my fault. She has me blocked on social media, but my niece is saying all kinds of freaked up stuff. Life is too short for drama. And for clarification, I'm not interested in her boyfriend. My kid is older than him. Comfortable C2454 commented, NTA. Around 9 p.m., her son texts and said that he was spending the night again because it was so late and his ride didn't feel like taking him home. He was with family of the BF and they had worked a college football game. She tells him to go get her son. He said, why can't he just stay another night? More cussing and screaming. He left to go get the child. She grabbed the baby and went to her bedroom. I gathered my stuff and left and went to my dad's house. I forgot that my watch was charging, so I had to go back to get it. Found out he took his son and left that morning, and she says it's my fault. She has me blocked on social media, but my niece is saying all kinds of freaked up stuff. Life is too short for drama, and for clarification, I'm not interested in her BF. My kid is older than him. Your leaving might have inspired him to leave, but from what you describe, your cousin is a living nightmare to live with, and BF had enough. Also, hi, my name is Brendan, and if you guys enjoy these Am I the Jerk videos, it would be awesome if you left a like or left a review if you're listening to our podcast. That said, our next story is, am I the jerk for not attending my best friend's wedding because I couldn't support her choice of marrying her ex-husband? So, my best friend, let's call her Sarah, went through a pretty rough divorce a few years ago. She was married to a guy for 7 years and it ended terribly. They were separated for a while, but just recently, they decided to get back together. Now she's planning to marry him again and she invited me to the wedding. I know Sarah's decision to reconcile is her choice, but I can't shake off the bad memories of how he treated her. It feels like a huge step backward and I just don't feel comfortable supporting this. I've told her I won't attend the wedding, and now she's really hurt, saying I'm not supporting her and our friendship might be on the line. Am I the jerk for not being able to support her decision even if it makes her happy? Thortalk2000 posted, not the jerk, I just don't feel comfortable supporting this, saying I'm not supporting her. She's right, you're not. Because you're not comfortable doing so, you're setting a boundary, and friends respect boundaries. If she can't respect your boundary, she's not a friend. That being said, if it's risking your friendship, I would definitely evaluate your stated boundary closely and make sure it is absolutely how you feel, exactly and unequivocally. If there's any potential details from her point of view that could be provided that could change your mind, then I'd ascertain that said details are non-existent before drawing the line in the sand. Ivory_Iris9 responded, that's a fair point. Setting boundaries is important. I just want to make sure I'm not hurting my friend by sticking to mine. I've tried to really consider her side, but I'm still not comfortable attending. I think it's just about respecting where we both stand, even if it risks our friendship. Our next story is, am I the jerk for refusing to make Starbucks drinks for my family on Thanksgiving? Am I the jerk for refusing to make Starbucks drinks for my family on Thanksgiving? I, 28-year-old female, worked at Starbucks for a little over 2 years, and ever since then, my family has loved asking me to recreate their favorite drinks at home. I don't mind doing it once in a while, but it's not exactly my favorite thing, especially because I don't have all the equipment or supplies that Starbucks has. This Thanksgiving, my mom hosted dinner and invited a bunch of extended family. After we finished eating, she casually announced, "Okay everyone, my name, we'll be making Starbucks drinks for dessert." I was totally blindsided. Apparently, she had bought a bunch of syrups, whipped cream, and even a little espresso machine just for this. When I said I didn't really feel like making drinks for 15 plus people, my mom got super annoyed and said, "It's not that hard for you. You used to do this all the time at work." A few of my cousins started chiming in too, saying it would be fun and that they'd help. But I didn't come to Thanksgiving to play barista for the whole family, so I stood my ground. Now my mom is upset, saying I embarrassed her after she went out of her way to buy all the supplies. Some of my family thinks I was being selfish and that it wouldn't have taken that long, but I just wanted to enjoy the holiday, not work for it. Am I the jerk? A very brown girl nerd posted, "She totally blindsided you and had the audacity to say you embarrassed her. Honestly, it sounds like her, and several others it sounds, are using you when they don't feel like paying for Starbucks. Maybe you should start charging them? That could get them to stop. OP, can I have a pumpkin spice? That would be $6 for a grande." Sometimes money gets people to stop requesting things. NTA. Our next story is, am I the jerk for yelling at my sister for putting her phone on D&D and leaving her first grader at school without picking him up? Today at 4 p.m., my nephew's elementary school called me. He's 7 years old and in first grade. He had been left at school for about 40 minutes after dismissal, and the office said they couldn't reach anyone on his emergency contact list. They asked if I could get in touch with his parents, my sister and her husband. I tried calling both of them, but their phones were on Do Not Disturb. Their calls would ring once and go straight to voicemail, which is odd because their phones should usually ring a few times before going to voicemail. Since neither of them was reachable, I got concerned and decided to go pick up my nephew myself. While I was on my way, I kept trying to call my sister. She finally called me back about 90 minutes later, after when the school first tried to reach her, saying she and her husband had just been napping. I was furious. It felt incredibly irresponsible for them to leave their child stranded at school and silence their phones, especially as parents of a young child and a toddler. Her excuse was that her husband had asked his grandparents to pick up my nephew, but there was a miscommunication. I told her that even if that was the plan, she shouldn't have put her phone on Do Not Disturb because emergencies like this can happen. Her response shocked me. She said she likes putting her phone on Do Not Disturb during naps, and if I was going to react this way, she would remove me from my nephew's emergency contact list. She also added that I was the last contact on the list anyway because her in-laws, the grandparents, were listed first. She then accused me of overreacting, saying that normal people wouldn't get angry about something like this. She even mentioned that she's made a lot of new friends this year and now understands how normal people act. I found this insulting because I was the only one responsible enough to answer the school's call and make sure her child was safe. She continued justifying herself, saying it's normal for people not to answer their phones if they're busy, at work, or in meetings. She insisted that having her phone on Do Not Disturb was necessary because she naps with her toddler and needs complete silence. By the end of the conversation, she tried to make me feel like I was in the wrong for being upset. She said I had a right to be concerned, but no right to be angry or yell at her. She then added that she doesn't like spending time with family because there's always an argument when she talks to us. This left me completely baffled. Instead of showing any gratitude for my help, she threw backhanded insults at me, even though I was the only one who ensured her child's safety. Her reaction made me question whether I was wrong to be upset, but I still feel her behavior was irresponsible and ungrateful. TD Luxon commented, "NTA, your sister is totally irresponsible, and the fact that she won't even own up to it is further proof of her irresponsibility. She should be apologizing and thanking you. As a fairly decent parent, I can tell you that the days of D&D end when you have a child. That is a responsibility bigger than yourself, and there's no room for miscommunication or excuses. And as far as her in-laws being on your nephew's contact list, The school could not reach them, so she's going to put her reliance on the people that couldn't be reached while her son was waiting outside alone. The same people whose miscommunication was the reason that he didn't get picked up. If that's even true, sounds like BS. That's pretty dang stupid. I'd make sure that your nephew has your number and keeps it with him so he can at least call you next time something stupid like this happens. Lord M. Wahaha responded, LOL, right? OP should straight up say, well, the first people on your emergency contact list didn't freaking answer, so if you're going to remove me, I guess your child will just be stuck at school thinking you're dead next time. Wonder how long it'll take for the school to call CPS for child abandonment. Our next story is, am I the jerk for how I handled an accusation of parking in customer parking as a non-customer? Today, I, 31-year-old woman, brought a piece of art in for framing to the local framers. I live in a smallish town. I've been a customer of them for years, doing much framing with them. I paint myself, but I also enjoy art, especially since the pandemic, and like to get pieces framed. I've gotten many items framed with them. I parked in customer parking. I spent quite a bit of money with them that day, around $100. The woman recognized me and gave me a regular customer discount. It was also not busy at all, with several car spaces open. Following paying, I didn't move my car right away. I saw on my step counter I needed to get a few more steps in, so I walked to the main section of town and grabbed some food before heading back to the car and leaving. I was backing my car out, and a man approached my car as I was backing out. I did not recognize him. He started saying I wasn't allowed to park there. He was quite hostile. I told him I was a customer and continued to back out in order to leave. He started trying to get me to stop and try to stop me leaving. This made me uncomfortable. I told him to get away from me. He was saying, hold on. I told him to get the F away from me. I exited the premises but could see him in my rearview mirror. I want to be clear, there were several parking spaces open. When I got home, I called the framer and told her a hostile man was bothering me outside her store. She said it was her husband. She said he misinterpreted the situation and thought I was a non-customer parked in customer parking. She defended him, saying that he wouldn't have approached me rudely and I escalated the situation too quickly, insinuating her husband was targeted by me because he was a white man. I told her that her husband had not even asked me if I was a customer, but immediately started throwing around accusations. I told her I had told him I was a customer, but that still did not seem good enough for him, and he was trying to stop me leaving before I swore at him. I did think it was likely he had profiled me because my car is not very nice, but I did not say this. I also said I wanted my money back and my art back. When I said this, she seemed upset and wanted me to reconsider. I said I was feeling upset about what happened and would think on it. I ran into my mom in the driveway and asked her to pick up my art and get my money back. She did this quickly and said the woman seemed flustered and a bit surprised and upset. I think she had thought I would go ahead with him, but I was upset she had defended him. Am I the jerk? KDU84 posted, NTA, if it was a busy parking lot or if it was full that day, that's one thing. It sounds like you went for a short walk, not a big deal. The second the man tried to prevent you from leaving is when the situation took a turn. You were justified in yelling and swearing. I would have done the same. I also won't spend money at that business ever again. The wife should have apologized and left it at that, but she wanted to defend her husband instead of keeping a customer. She chose her husband, and in turn, you chose not to do business with her anymore. Actions have consequences. Avatar_Cora responded, that was where I found it alarming, when he seemed to want to stop me. I told him I was a customer and did not feel comfortable engaging further. I told my dad about him trying to stop me and he was like, you cannot stop people leaving. What was he planning to try to do? Citizens arrest you? Our next story is, am I the jerk for refusing to use my mom's ring on my engagement ring? My 28-year-old boyfriend and I, 23-year-old, have talked about designing our own rings for our future engagement. Recently, my mom offered to give us her ring from her marriage to my dad to melt down and incorporate into mine. I refused. Her marriage to my dad was filled with negativity. She had a midlife crisis and cheated, and my dad wasn't a saint either. He struggled with alcohol abuse the entire time. Their relationship was toxic and ultimately ended badly. To me, their ring is a symbol of that failed marriage, and I don't want to carry that energy into my future with my partner. I want our rings to represent a fresh, positive start. My mom didn't take it well. She thinks I'm being disrespectful and sentimental about the wrong things. She argues that it's just a ring and sees it as a meaningful gesture to pass it down. Am I the jerk for refusing? Comfortable C2454 responded, NTA. Recently, my mom offered to give us her ring from her marriage to my dad to melt down and incorporate into mine. Generous gesture from her. I refused. Her marriage to my dad was filled with negativity. She had a midlife crisis and cheated, and my dad wasn't a saint either. He struggled with alcohol abuse the entire time. Their relationship was toxic and ultimately ended badly. To me, their ring is a symbol of that failed marriage, and I don't want to carry that energy into my future with my partner. I want our rings to represent a fresh, positive start. Your point of view, your engagement. You're right. My mom didn't take it well. She thinks I'm being disrespectful and sentimental about the wrong things. She argues that it's just a ring and sees it as a meaningful gesture to pass it down. Meaningful gesture for her, bad juju for you. Mom needs to stand down. Our next story is, am I the jerk for yelling at a couple because of their kids at the airport? Last year, I, 16-year-old male, went backpacking across Europe with my mom, 44, for 3 weeks. We hit a few countries and it was a lot of fun, but towards the end of our trip we got sick. I barely had a rash, but my mom was hit bad with headaches, fever, nausea, and patches of puffy red rashes/inflammation on her neck. We were a day from our return flight and our medical options in Rome weren't great, so we decided she'd see a doctor first thing when we got back. She was extremely exhausted after such a long trip, and worsening so by the time we got off our 16-hour flight back to Cali. She was practically a zombie. We were waiting in the line at customs for American citizens, and right behind us was a couple with 2 kids. It was a long line, so we were stuck with them for at least 20 minutes, and their kids were going wild. The 2 little boys looked to be around 4 and 7. They were screaming and running in and out of the line, bumping into people and stepping over feet. The parents were unbothered and speaking casually with each other in Italian. This was really upsetting my mom as they ran into us the most, and the screaming only exacerbated her headache. Now, I'm not very confrontational, unlike my mother. I would rather bite my tongue, but seeing as she couldn't say much, it really bothered me. I kept telling myself I'd say something after one more time, and eventually I boiled over. I whipped around, looked at them dead in the eyes and said, "You speak English, right? Keep your kids in line." I didn't yell, but I was loud and firm. The mom just looked shocked, picked up her kids, and that was the end of it. My mom tried to say stop right beforehand, but didn't say much either. It wasn't until I told this story to my coworkers back at work that my boss said I sounded like a Karen and overreacted. I think I held it together remarkably well, but what do you think? For a little more context, we later found out my mom had a staph infection and almost went septic. Plus, she has multiple pre-existing conditions like cluster headaches, hyperthyroidism, her thyroid was removed, and sleep apnea. Added, I forgot, brain lesions from microstrokes and heart problems. Edit. I can't deny flying sick was not very considerate, but we did not have the funds to continue to stay abroad for the duration medical treatment would take, and we had to get back to our pets. Also, I want to mention that I did want her to see a doctor, but she said otherwise and it was out of my hands. She's stubborn and literally almost died from another infection because she didn't want me to miss my first day ever of work. Aggressive_cattle 320 commented, "You went on that flight in spite of being very ill. Your symptoms, including rashes, were indicative of some type of virus or infection, and you should have seen a doctor before getting on that flight. When traveling in foreign countries, you could have picked up anything along the way. If it was a communicable disease, you could have sickened the entire plane full. Very irresponsible on your parts. Parents are supposed to pay attention to what their kids are doing and keep them from disturbing other people around. I'm glad I wasn't there because I would have had issues with all your behaviors." Our next story is, am I the jerk for ruining my mom's Thanksgiving? I, 34-year-old female, often butt heads with my mom, 54-year-old female. She's high-strung, high-maintenance, and neurotic, while I'm the opposite. In the 2 weeks leading up to Thanksgiving, my sister, 35-year-old female, and I asked our mom about her plans for the day. She said she wasn't sure and would get back to us, but she never did. The conversation came up a few more times and still no plans were made. So my fiance, 35-year-old male, and I decided to do Thanksgiving at his mom's house instead. We've been together almost 8 years, have 2 kids, and have done the last 2 Thanksgivings at his mom's because my mom never made plans. About 4 days before Thanksgiving, she asked if we had plans and we said no. I had given up on hoping for dinner with my mom. My fiance likes to cook turkey and offered to help his mom, so it worked out for everyone. The evening before Thanksgiving, while I was on break at work, my mom called. She asked what we were doing for Thanksgiving, and I told her we were going to his mom's house. This set her off. She cried, made a scene on FaceTime, and accused us of not loving her, saying his mom was more important and that this would be the third year in a row it was at her house. I tried to reassure her, reminding her that we had tried to make plans earlier, but she hung up on me. I spent most of my lunch break trying to comfort her, telling her we loved her just as much and that if she'd made plans sooner, we would have gone there. I also said I'd still visit her with the kids, but we wouldn't be hungry as we'd already eaten. That upset her more, and she told me not to bother coming. She said she wasn't doing anything now and didn't want us there. Thanksgiving came. We had a great day with his family. I didn't go to my mom's or call her because she shuts off her phone when she's mad. The next day, I saw she posted on Facebook, saying she hoped everyone had a good Thanksgiving and that nobody called or showed up and she was hurt. Here's why I may be the jerk. I showed this post to my sister and we both got upset. Her more than me. I posted a screenshot of our conversation on the post, pointing out how she told me not to come and shouldn't play the victim when it was her fault nobody came over. She deleted the post after realizing other family members were siding with us, and I haven't heard from her since. So Reddit, am I the jerk for ruining my mom's Thanksgiving? Aggressive_cattle320 commented, NTA, you did not ruin your mother's holiday. She did by being indecisive and waiting until the last moment to decide to talk to you about it. Let her know that you aren't a mind reader and you don't like to leave plans for holidays up in the air until the last minute. Next year, talk with her early and when asking about plans for the holiday, set a time limit to when you need to hear confirmation from her. Otherwise, you'll go ahead and make other plans. Don't let her negativity weigh upon your heart for the holidays. She brings about her own misery with no help from anyone else. Our next story is, am I the jerk for leaving dinner when being told to? I, 19-year-old female, came home from college for Thanksgiving and had Thanksgiving with my father, 49-year-old male. This did not occur during Thanksgiving Day. A couple days after we were eating together at the dinner table, my father, who was next to me, was eating with his mouth open and smacking his lips obnoxiously. I took a deep breath because I knew if I hadn't, I'd be rude. When something's bothering me, I tend to overreact, so I took a second and then asked him, Dad, could you please chew with your mouth closed? It's bothering me. I made sure to ask in a soft tone so I didn't get misinterpreted as rude. My father then responded, freak off, eat somewhere else if you don't like it. It shocked me for a moment because I really didn't expect him to say that. I then got up, took care of my plate, then I drove to my mother's house and stayed at her home for the night. Am I the jerk? I really don't think so, but my father's wife said I should have never said anything to begin with. I do think I may have overreacted with leaving his house altogether. Alternative Drop 664 commented, NTA, I mean, he did tell you to freak off and eat somewhere else, probably didn't expect you to go to another house entirely, but he was a bit too vague with his statement. You didn't ask him anything rudely though. Even took the time to collect yourself before asking him to stop, but he was rude to you in response. You only did what he said. I'd say that's polite and obedient. Our next story is, am I the jerk for asking my husband to disinfect the bathroom? Our daughter was up all night vomiting and pooping. My husband got up with her and took care of her throughout the night. I work from home. He then slept until 1 p.m. and comes to my office to check in. Our daughter has been sleeping as well. My husband says he's going to meet up with a buddy this afternoon. I said, I hate to ask, but please disinfect the bathroom with bleach. He says, you don't hate to ask. I said, I do because I know you don't want to, but it needs to be done. So the sickness or virus or whatever doesn't spread more, making me feel pretty terrible. But I'm working. Well, I should be. But now here I am posting to Reddit. Am I the jerk? My husband has a part-time job and works maybe 10 hours a week. We have 2 kids. Okay, Educator 850 commented, YTA, why'd you wait till 1 p.m. to disinfect the bathroom? You should have done that as soon as you woke up while your sick child and husband, who cared for her all night, was sleeping. Our next story is, am I the jerk for not giving my mom her monthly money so I could have extra spending money on my vacation? For context, I, 26-year-old female, give my mom a set amount of money every month. She's retired and gets a pension, but she says it's not enough to cover her expenses. She insists that it's my responsibility as her daughter to help her out financially. My sister and her husband give my mom more money than I do, and they have a baby, which makes me feel even guiltier. They often remind me that they manage to give more, even with their extra responsibilities. This month, I decided not to give my mom her usual amount because I planned a 10-day vacation with my fiance to another city. I could have still gone on the trip while giving her the money, but I wanted to have more spending money to fully enjoy my time away. Now my mom is upset, and her attitude towards me has shifted. This isn't the first time she's been cold or distant when I couldn't or didn't give her money. Even though I know I could technically afford both, I feel guilty for choosing to prioritize myself and my vacation instead. So Reddit, am I the jerk for skipping my monthly contribution to my mom so I could have more financial freedom on my trip? The Bewitching Witch commented, NTA, you're being used and guilted to take care of your mother. Not only by your mother, but your sister and her husband as well. I'm curious as to how much her pension is. My income is my income, and that's what I live on. While helping her out sometimes is nice, doing it monthly seems excessive. With that being said, that's all the time we have for today. If you enjoyed today's video, drop a like and comment below, and if you want to check out our other videos, click the video on the right. With that being said, I'll see you all next time.